Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage field services expert, Paul Williams.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast presentation of Foreclosurepedia Network, which premieres each Sunday evening. I'm going to apologize in advance. I kind of have the laryngitis, and I'm out here in at the Area 51 complex, and you know, there's just no moisture out here, ladies and gentlemen, and so it finally took its toll on me. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry, but I tell you, and we try to get it out there, you know, bi-weekly, the most important thing that you need to know within the Foreclosurepedia Nation is, what is Brett Douglas doing? And I'm going to tell you why. Brett Douglas and Team Ironclad down in DeLand, Florida, they are kicking off Florida Fast 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you need to be there, both labor and management. Brett, you out there today? Oh, it's like having you here. So before we get into Florida Fast, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the rehab going on down there at the Team Ironclad facility. And incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, you can go down to Florida Fast. It's going to be physically at 342 West Michigan Avenue. That's DeLand, Florida. You can reach out by phone, 386-774-0800, 386-774-0200, or the number I love, 855 Team Iron. So let's talk a little bit about the rehab and that's ongoing there at the compound. Walk us through. This has been almost a year plus going on, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly. I guess at this point, man, I kind of feel like Noah, in the great flood. He had this monumental task that he really didn't want to get involved with, and then he kind of resisted, and the Lord kind of forced him to do it, not to get biblical. But, I just feel like everything's turned against us, and it's just every day, man, I just fight back, and I'm determined to stay the course and get it done. But, you were blessed to come down here and see this in the early days. We've certainly had a long friendship in a couple of years. Remember, our old facility was just really fragmented. Remember that? Yeah. We had to have one of those, remember we had to ride those little machines to get from one place all the way to the other.
Oh, yeah.
So we, and then when you came down here, I think it's probably about, a year ago. A year ago, we were just moving in, and, we had a little mini summit real quick, and, I think at the time we just maybe had the kitchen built, right? We kind of fastly, put the kitchen up.
Right.
But, other than that, we had our main office area operational, and then we kind of laid out a plan, and I think at the time maybe we were a little too large-minded, but I think in the end, when this whole project's finished, Paul, we'll have actually converted over 7,000 square feet of space in here. So it's we're up to almost 9,000 square foot of footprint of preservation nirvana in here. We've basically changed every square foot of this place. So it's been a long process.
And I've been looking through some of these photos, and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get these out on this podcast and hopefully in an article this evening. But look, man, I see it looks like, stonework. You have custom, wood and features going in there. And I want to put this caveat out there. Look, folks, this isn't some quarter-inch bullshit OSB. This is serious plywood, folks. See, we are talking, 1.5 stories suspended.
Yeah, when we first started it, Paul, we kind of went with the normal 8-foot walls, and as we kind of looked at the plan and kind of tweaked it, and we had some kind of ideals. I wanted to have a separate little church and a chapel. I know it's kind of risque sometimes in a workplace, but I really need in this industry. We're so stressed at all times, and as combat vets, man, sometimes we make the wrong choices, and I needed a sanctity. I needed to get away to a place and be able to have some quiet time, and so I started building the sanctuary for myself. We like to do some physical fitness together, do some yoga and stuff. We were building an ashram, and then we wanted to have some meditation. So it became quite a large project. But once we started building it all, we decided to make it really kind of like become a castle in here. We started doing the stonework, and it just kind of got away from us. And we seriously have a rather unique situation.
On with respect to that, for Florida Fast 2016, and ladies and gentlemen, and remind me again, Brett, is that 18 February?
It is, sir. You know, we have well, this year we did a little different. I will say this is and you know, we talk about perseverance and things like that, Paul. You and I had a dream a long time ago. In the midst of all our conversations we had on the phone, I had the pleasure of meeting up with you, and we talked about, you know, let's not forget, all kidding aside, that the number one reason for all this building and all this construction, you know, the main dream you and I had, that basically you and I were proud enough to admit our industry sucks. We have no standardization, like you always point out. How in the world can we be punished for people saying they want a standard when there is no standard in our industry? So let's not beat around the bush. You know, we built all this to, you know, I've kind of been shy about mentioning it, but we're building an actual training academy that benefits from all this. You know, we'll have a live cafe, we'll have a live commercial bar. You know, we have all these things to augment, you know, what is really our primary business is going to be opening up. You know, we're proud to admit we've got the names getting trademarked. You know, we're going to be the fast track. And, you know, that's for our third-party training wing of this. But this year we did something a little bit different. The years before we did fast on a weekend. This year we're riding on the heels of the NBA in Orlando, and we're actually doing our meet and greet Thursday, which is February 18th in the evening. And then our one-day power summit's going to be on Friday, I believe, February 19th.
Wow, I tell you what, on, and just to recap on Florida Fast 2016, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be this year, as it is almost every year. It is completely hosted by Team Ironclad. That's Brett Douglas. They're down at 342 West Michigan Avenue. That's DeLand, Florida. Reach him always, 386-774-0800 or 386-774-0200, and always at 855-TEAM-IRON. So talk to me about the lineup that's going on down there at Florida Fast this year.
Well, that's another exciting thing. You know, a lot of times, Paul, you know, even in the beginning when you and I first started, yeah, there's a little bit of you know, we've kind of learned to find the common ground in the middle of the fence, as it's per se. You know, we have a common background in the military. We respect that with each other. And, you know, I threw my towel in with NAMPS, you know, as a vehicle to grow my business. And I take a lot of flack in the very people I'm trying to get the message out to, labor. They sometimes view me as a threat because I'm heavily involved with NAMPS. But the thing about it is, you know, and this is why my friendship to you is so critical. You've been around me. You understand that I'm W-2. I don't sub a single thing out. You know, subs are sold at Subway and Publix, and that's for lunch. Subs are certainly for lunch. They're not for work orders in my book. But, you know, I get a lot of flack for that. I certainly know a lot of good guys out there that, you know, Gene O'Neill, for what it's worth, and my other friend that I never mentioned his name in public. But they know that I have their interest at heart. You know, I do know they pay their people and they treat them like family. But, you know, we don't do any injury to other people. And so, you know, I understand that there are a lot of real dirtbag, I mean, excuse my language, but there's a lot of dirtbag people in NAMPS. We can laugh about it all day long, or we can be serious about it. There are some people there. You have exposed it, shine the light on it. I've stood by you side by side, you know, that these are the people we don't need in our industry. For whatever reasons, man, they're hurting our brothers and sisters in labor. But, you know, and I go to these meetings, and believe it or not, bro, I call them out, man. I'm on the one side of the room, and they're not liking that I have a voice, but, you know, I pay to have that voice. If you remember, you know, I don't want to bring it up, but I'm one of the largest sponsors, if not the largest sponsor, and, you know, multiple years running. And, you know, my wife is even, you know, kind of curtailing that, you know, telling me to slow down on the sponsorship. But I feel like this: if I want to play in the industry and I want to have a recognizable voice, and I want to be one that somebody takes for a serious note, then I have to pay sometimes to play. And it's all about marketing and getting my name out there and being a serious contender. You know, I'm not just a joke. I really believe in this industry, and I really enjoy our friendship and the fact that you can reach the labor. And the one thing that bothers me is that somehow I've gotten a bad rap. There's people out there saying that I'm not for the interest of labor, but talking about what I was leading up to in a long spiel about this is that Nance certainly reciprocates the love that I have for Nance. I'm able to pull management into an arena where maybe some other people wouldn't be able to do that. And so, the people at Nance that admire me and I admire Nance, they seem to be able to come to Florida and spend the time and energy. This is our third-year event, and I'm very pleased to announce that, once again, we have strong showing by Nance. Eric Miller, who, basically being the executive director, he just can't jump on a plane and fly down here. He has to still ask for board permission to attend.
Sure.
For the third year, they've not turned him down, which is a great thing, Paul. I really believe that Eric, has a fine line to walk. He has to please a lot of people, but in the end, I think that you and I are both taken back by Nance finally putting out a strong point that this new Fannie Mae inspection may not be in the best interest of everybody involved, and so I think some things from Nance are happening. But we're very pleased that for once we have Aspen Grove coming down. Our friends with, Property Preservation Wizard, they're great guys. They're going to be showing up. And then some of the nationals and regionals that have attended in the past. Guardian Asset Management's coming. ZBN has always been a strong shower. I'm hoping to see that I heard a rumor we might be blessed with Brian Lasowski this time. Jared, with PCC Preservation's coming. So we've got a pretty good lineup coming.
Yeah, and I... and I want to dwell on that, on the comment about Eric Miller for just a moment. You and I had always both privately discussed the fact that, at the end of the day, labor and management need to sit down and roll up the sleeves. And we had said that the couple of issues that we're always going to present, one was training. And no matter how you get that out there, in all deference to the W2, W9, because we have the recent AMS case put forward by DPLO. They're going for summary judgment. Looks like it's going to be another Hearst v. Buchek. But that aside, here's the reality. There's not a lot of old hands, like yourself, myself, others out there anymore. A lot of these people are coming in. They really don't know what the hell they're doing. And you throw into the mix what's going on up in Maine, all right, with the FDCPA requirements, Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. It's going to be a mess. And that was one of the beauties of FAST, I always felt, was you were getting deeply involved, and I believe you still are involved, in putting together, an educational forum, so this is the ability. And I also, in fairness to NAMPS, I believe NAMPS has an enormous educational, platform. And Eric Miller, the original Florida FAST, I'll never forget that. He pitched the education deal, on a dime.
We on the spot there, didn't we, brother?
Man, I couldn't believe that. I was like, holy Christ, man, did an excellent job. But that's the reality. Yep. These are discussions that need to be happening. It's great if they're happening at the NAMPS annual conference and at their summits. But the reality is they can have all the conferences they want and push something, but it's not. You got to get labor in there to actually do it.
Well, and that's exactly what this dream was a long time ago. Like once I mentioned, I don't want to beat a dead horse to death. I'm over it. It's sometimes painful to me that I'm criticized, but I guess without haters, we wouldn't be doing the right thing. But that's the nature that I don't know. You and I discussed before. Even though people think I have deep pockets, the MBA is going on in this week. That's why we chose this date this year. Is that we kind of got intelligent that. One of the things we see is exactly what you're just saying. Labor does not have the opportunity to go to these events. The Mortgage Brokers Association is being held in February that same week. And I think the price tag, remember you and I were joking about that, it's somewhere around, $3,500 an attendee?
Oh, yeah.
What's going to happen is, and we mentioned Eric Miller again, I asked Eric Miller as a personal friend, not that I'm trying to utilize him, like a voice piece, but the thing is, I asked him for three things this time. If he doesn't mind being our keynote address speaker, we'd really like to get Juan Gonzalez out here from M&M. But most people know he's really a great guy for labor, but he's so busy with his role. But we've asked Eric to kind of do a three-pronged attack. Kind of the state of the industry as we see moving into 2016 as a unique position as executive director of NAMPS. What does he see this year is going to bring? Number two is that he's going to do a quick recap of the events and things that have occurred at NBA that most of the people in the room who didn't go to the NBA wouldn't have been privy to that information anyway. He's going to kind of do a recap. And then finally, we're going to address the Fannie Mae issue. That's kind of where we're gracious. I don't do inspections, Paul. I don't know anything about it. But we're a symbiont industry. We have to be there for everybody. It's preservation, it's REO, it's inspectors. We have an obligation to reach every single voice in this industry. And I asked Eric Miller to speak briefly about the Fannie Mae, the concerns that maybe Fannie Mae as a government entity, whether they realize it or not, are asking our brothers and sisters to commit to things that are above their skill level, which is going to jeopardize a lot of single people. And so I really think that's an important part, and that's why I'm very pleased that Eric Miller is going to speak on that for us.
Well, and I'll tell you with respect to Fannie Mae, and let's not bullshit around. Fannie Mae, other than Mazzillo over at Countrywide, Fannie Mae is the quintessential reason we're in this mess. In addition, Freddie Mac, and I recently took on their general counsel over there at Freddie. It's a long story. It'll eventually publish out.
Sure.
But, the reality is these people believe that they're untouchable. And what I have always opined is that the industry has to get some spine, And I'm going to tell you, I may talk a lot of shit publicly about NAMPS and Eric Miller and yada yada. I have always stated privately, if NAMPS goes down, this whole industry is done. Period. End of conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that there's incredible leadership there. What it is there's a fucking Rolodex there. You dig? And once you split that Rolodex up, it's all over.
Yeah. No, you're right. And you and I have had some candid conversations that like I've always admired you, Paul. I mean, in the early days, we certainly had our confrontations and we had our battles because I came in here wide-eyed, I guess starry-eyed to thinking that everything was right and wrong, and then I realized that not everything is kind of the way it is. And I came in here with a mission statement riding in here, and thinking that I was going to change the world, and what I realized is I'm proud to stand by you, as a brother, and to stand by side, that we're fighting the blight in this industry. And what we mentioned is it was a terrible collateral damage. It affected my company, and we talk about it. I'm one of the largest W-2 setups in this entire industry. Once people come to FAST and see our organization and see, it's not about me bragging. It's a matter of fact that stands in this industry that if a man like me that has almost 30 trucks, almost 40 pieces of rolling stock, I have a 9,000 square foot facility with over 3 training room conference areas. I'm willingly giving this room for free. Anybody who wants to use my facility can come up here for free. We talk about training. We're building a training academy. I can't win a single contract in Florida. Why? Because I'm allied with you and I stand for what's right. And if a dirtbag's a dirtbag, we're going to call him out on it. Is that what we've evolved to in this industry? That greater, they're too big to fail mentality is that we're going to stiff members of labor, and if they complain about it, then we'll blackball them and we won't give them work. That's kind of where we're at. But you know what? I have integrity, and I think that's from the first conversation. You saw that in me. We've had our battles, but we've stayed true to each other because I believe in your mission just like you believe in mine. And I think that even if we get in here and we're polite on these podcasts, even though I get a little winded, people see our intent is to better the industry and protect our labor brothers and sisters. I can't see a greater cause than what you and I stand for. I would hope that one day you and I'd be rewarded financially, that our better day is coming, because, if people envision every day a better outcome for the future. But for right now, even though I'm blackballed by this industry, I stay on. I have pride, and I'm proud to be your friend, and I'm proud that we can get on here and make a difference. So.
Well, I thank you for those kind words. I'll make sure I get that payment down to you promptly. But
I can run with electric in a week. We can't count on the Nationals.
And on that point, I will. I'll make a statement here. So the industry is changing very rapidly, and it's in a very fluid and dynamic set. What do I mean by that? So there are 54 NAMPS members, which comprise the vast majority of the gross earnings that come in and out of NAMPS members, whom have all, if you will, tacitly come into the rabbit hole. And they they subscribe to my belief that the days of the Nationals are done. And we know that for a fact, Fannie revamped their deal, and they went from, the multi-state, take as much as you can and screw everybody approach. You get one state. So we're seeing this, and so I believe in the regional and perhaps the super regional approach. However, what happens is you take these groups or these niches of contractors, management, labor, and then you bind them together in a national setup, you see?
Yeah. The golden dream.
It'll become a reality. That roadmap, it has to come to reality along that timeline. I'm getting too goddamn old for this shit.
and here's the point, Paul, and that's where the beauty of friendships and alliances and allegiances come to play. It's kind of like the battle. Have you ever seen on the TV? I'm not a big TV fan, but I lay there with my daughter and she wants to watch her shows, and I don't know the video games, but they got Arnold Schwarzenegger on there, and they're doing the castles, and he's in with the helicopters and the tanks, and it's all about building your relationships, and that's where, like, for us, you've come in here before, you've seen me, I'm strong-willed, I would have been a great barbarian warrior back in the days, I'm just, bullheaded, and I get out there and get it done, but we don't understand the technology of the stuff and everything else, but, that's easily fixed if you have the right partnerships, and so what you're mentioning is, when you get this union of people together that believe in the common goal, I think not the Nationals, but the banks and these servicers would get something they've never had before. They'd have a unique group of people that are dedicated to their purpose. I mean, I don't think the Nationals serve anyone but their self-interest. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I work for a National. Don't get me wrong. When I'm bashing on Nationals here, I work for the greatest company. You know who I work for. I don't have to mention them by name. I try to keep them off the Richter, but they treat me fairly.
And I think we have lost Brett for the moment. We're going to try to get him back up. I think we have Brett Douglas back on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Area 51. It's no bullshit. You can't predict anything out here. But so you were continuing on and discussing about, the state of the industry, if you will, and the paradigm shift, going from the national, we're going to destroy you model to the regional and having a collective continuity, I believe would be a fair statement.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Paul. I think if you really look at it, I think what we're missing here is that for a long time, it's kind of like this discussion you and I had. How does a company like Fannie Mae put a contractor, HUD, I don't want to, you certainly know these entities more than I do. I don't want to say the wrong name, but what I'm wondering is, from their altitude, a service group like that puts out a contract. They say they put it out to bid, and all these companies, go to bid on it. Have you ever heard of them getting a group of large contractors in that area and actually sitting down and saying, hey, let's review getting their subs together and getting in, kind of like if you were building on, I think one time you had mentioned to me about, we'll say off the record, there was a contract, somebody's looking for some landscape portion of it and this, that. You get together and you get a pricing understatement, you understand what your costs are, you get together with your subcontractors, you look at the items that you're bidding on, you kind of get together on a price. How come in our industry it's so unique? They just put the numbers to whatever they want and then force it down the throats of everybody to do the work. So really, the quality is always going to be compromised. How in the world can you expect the quality to be symbiont with the pricing when it's never going to matter? I mean, it's kind of like if you could buy a Porsche quality for paying a Volkswagen price, would you ever buy the Volkswagen, or would you always want that Porsche?
You always want the Porsche.
Right, so I don't understand, and I think until we can figure that mystery out, it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. It's always going to be out there, and until a group of people get together and we all say, hey, we all are dedicated to making it at 80% or whatever the price is, and show the true reason why. If we want to be regulated, we want to have, these insurances, we want to do the right thing. I'll tell you the greatest joke of all is that I look at people who pay dirt wages, regionals, and do you know, Paul, they ask for $1 million of vehicle insurance. They ask for workers' comp levels at $1 million. Do you think they even understand the true cost of those insurance policies that they're asking for?
No, not at all. No.
I mean, I just want to drop a number. I'm not trying to brag, but do you know what a $1 million vehicle insurance policy would cost Ironclad a year? Just throw out a number for 30 trucks.
Jesus, I couldn't even guess at something like that. I mean, that's yeah.
It's $87,000 a year.
Holy Jesus Christ!
Now the regional that was requesting that I do that was paying $18 initial grass cuts and $14 for a recut.
Wow!
But they wanted me to pay for $87,000 a year in vehicle insurance.
and here's the deal. Look, when we're about the same age. I'm 23 and you're 24. But
Yes, sir. I remember that.
All bullshit aside, we cut grass when we were growing up as kids. And when I pushed, that old lawnmower in that Texas sun, I'm gonna tell you what. If somebody told me $14, I'd have pissed on them. Shit.
Sure. That's the part. And then here's what I wonder. And you and I have talked about this before, and I might have had a cold one and the thought about it. But so if we base everything on the HUD scope of services, the standards, and say that HUD has this great program. They want you to cut all the grass. They want you to trim around the foundation. They want you to do this. They want you to pick up install debris, do everything. But yet they want to hold you to that standard, but yet they're not compensating you to what the HUD had those standards for a reason. They said that the minimum grass cut would be $84 to this price if we do all this work. How in the world do they expect all those standards and only pay $18? If there's a decrease in the pay, wouldn't there be a decrease in the standards or the services requested?
Well, one would think so.
Yeah. But anyway, I know we didn't call it just to talk about that, but I really think you're on the right path, Paul. I swear. I've only been in this industry since 1997. I'm not an old timer by any means. I've just, done a few trash outs, few initial skiers. I see us resorting back. When I first started in this industry, roof tarps were $4,000 or $5,000 a piece. I really think the brokers had a bigger say in what happens. I would hope that one day, no offense to I work for a great company. I hope they're always in the mix. But for everybody else that's the bastard child out there running around and hurting other people, I hope that it resorts back and resets itself to a normal pace, and that everybody can make a decent living and go home to their children every day and know that they've made a good thing and can pay their wages, right? Yeah,
excuse me. That's the one thing that has always boggled my mind. And so I'm going to use NAMPS because simply NAMPS is really the only organization out there. NAMPS has a tremendous amount of power if it chose to so apply it. And I think, and this is what I think is going to happen over the next 1 to 3 fiscal years. Okay. Just like Congress, so Congress used to be ran by a guy by the name of Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms. That's North and South Carolina. Strom Thurmond.
Yeah, they were senators from South. And the only reason I know that is because when I came back from the Gulf War, they made the odd, strange request of putting us at Fort Jackson, and they're legends up there.
Yeah, and so what I'm driving at here, Strom Thurmond's name was never on a ballot. It was always pinned in by the people. And as things began to change in the United States, as new ideas began to be accepted, those people, they faded out. And so now, granted, Congress is very polarized right now and yada, yada, but the reality is it's far more progressive than it was, 20 years ago. And NAMPS, I think NAMPS right now is having what I would call an identity crisis. Now, NAMPS obviously knows that it's a trade association. I mean, that's common sense. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that the leadership within NAMPS has ever sat down and contemplated, where do we hang our hat? Because now it's gotten to the point that we're no longer talking about getting your buddy a contract. We're talking about pure, unadulterated survival. And
No. You're absolutely correct. And Paul, I swear, I had this visions of me being on the board and leading the charge for labor. And having that voice for labor. And you know what? I've so evolved past that point. That's never going to happen. I guess I'm so outspoken, and that's fine. But what I beg for my brothers and sisters, man, and Nance, is to look at the reality, man. Whoever you guys keep voting, you're voting the same people back on the board. It's not working. It's kind of like insanity. Look at the dictionary, man. Webster defines that as repeating the same event over and over and over, thinking you're going to get a different outcome. We have to reinvent the wheel at Nance. We have to tear that organization apart. And whether that means, I guess everybody have a collective sigh of relief if we got rid of all the nasty people and we did this, did that. I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is, we need to take a deep look at where we're sitting in 2016 to make it to 2017, 18. Like you said, I think everybody needs to be concerned with just staying alive right now at this point. And if we don't look in our own companies, if we don't look inside our trade association, if we don't look at our allied friendships, none of us are going to survive. Because, that Grim Reaper is sitting out there right offshore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and here's the reality, and I always, I get tickled on this. So a couple of the large, I call them newswire rags. So they follow me now.
Sure.
One's DS News, and no bullshit. I was like, what the hell? What are you doing? Have you lost your mind? But hey,
they see the beauty that I see, brother. Just put it that way.
Well, and what I'm driving at with that is the salient fact that they are always spinning a good story. Oh, the industry's getting better, or real estate's doing better. Here's the reality. The industry and the real estate market is fucked. It is catastrophically fucked. And I'm going to tell you why. We have over 1.8 million homes under the HELOC resets that they're going into mandatory foreclosure. That's it, end of conversation. Yeah. You just add.
And isn't it kind of concerning to you that oil prices are the lowest? If you look at, I don't understand it like you do. You're so more intelligent than I am.
Give me that bullshit.
But I seem to remember, Paul, that when oil prices are really low like this, it's kind of an indicator that a bigger fucking crisis is, a bigger crisis is heading our way, and we may be looking at something unique that we haven't seen in quite a few years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I tell you what, when we talk about oil. And there was a scary shift, and this is going to impact real estate as well. So China, forever and a day, the U.S. dollar was used as the trading currency, if you will. And China's breaking camp with that.
Did they reset their currency or something?
Yeah, and it's not just that. They got Australia to sign on, and so we now have a South Asian, if you will, pact coming together. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get far worse. Far worse.
It's going to devalue our credentials, tremendously. We're already thought as a laughing stock of the world, but now imagine when our currency is devalued even more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But let me get back on fast for a moment. So we have Aspen Grove coming in there. Are they going to discuss, so this is the background check and this is how it's done and things of that nature, or do you know?
Yeah, the one big point, like you and I talked about, our source of contention offline is, I hear a lot of people, complaining and groveling about the background check. Man, that's 2 years ago.
Right.
Man. If the time for that battle's over, I think what we need to look at now is that changes amongst us, and what we need to look at is to protect our brothers and sisters in labor. I'm not real happy with when I know I was there. I was there when they announced it. I was there through the pattern, the committee trying to bring it online. I was involved 100%. I didn't agree with it. Sometimes I agree with it, but the very nature of why it was created, we must stay to the one. It's kind of like the invaluable truth that it was created not to have to. A company like Ironclad should not have to pay 11 times to go through security checks all through the year.
No.
We should pay that one fee and say, here's my number, and pass it on. Unfortunately, what's happening is there's a way of doing it. If you misclassify yourself as an employee, not an independent contractor, you are then bound to the only company that ran your background check. And let's just throw out a company, say MCS, not picking on them by any means, but say that you are a contractor for MCS and then LPS wants to hire you, or I'm sorry, it's now Service Link or Black Link Financial, whatever it is, Black Knight. But Service Link wants to use you. and MCS has you listed as one of their own contractors, you can't just transfer that number. You have to pay again. That was not the intention of the Aspen Grove, and I want to make sure that my brothers and sisters in labor understand correctly how to code themselves when they on board with them. So that's the reason I invited them down here.
Well, and I think, you have a great point there. Look, it's the law of the land, and for want of better words. And so as opposed to Obamacare, where the Republicans are pitching a bitch, the reality is I concur with you. Look, it's the law of the land. Let's see what we can do with it to make it a good thing. And so look, if there's no movement, like you're talking, you should only have to get one of these, done, per year.
And I really believe, Paul, too, not to get off. I know we always talk about we're going to have a nice podcast, but, there's some scuttlebutt of companies out there that are, for lack of a better word, regional order mills that their owners that have these order mills, even though they're sitting back just getting the work orders, transferring it to a sub, they should be able to pass a background check also. If they are a known felon or if they have a criminal background, I don't believe that they should be getting work orders regardless if they do the work themselves and they pass it on. What's good for the goose is good for the gander in our industry. If you're a dirtbag scumbag, you shouldn't have work orders in your possession to begin with. You should not be allowed to partake in the pie. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're doing it yourself, if you're subbing it out to your cousin, your brother, your sister, you should follow the same rules and protocol. I want to know that the same company in that national that's giving me this background check is also background checking compliant. You know what I mean? What's fair is fair,
yeah,
right?
Most assuredly, and I will tell you on that point. So I'm gonna put some breaking news into this podcast. Five brothers, less than 36 hours ago, laid off 60 people. They gave them the pink slips. I did not find a warrant notice on that. But with respect to background checks, Five Brothers had and or still has an operations manager by the name of Melissa Shankin. Now, Ms. Shankin was convicted of crack cocaine possession, multiple tax liens, one of which was based upon not paying a debt at a funeral home. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out this, like you and like everybody else. So I'm labor cutting $14 grass cuts. Now, how is it precisely when I'm not touching any money, I'm not touching any product, I got to go through these insane background checks?
Because do you want me to tell you straight from Wells Fargo's face? Do you want me to tell you what I had? And I might be a little relaxed up, but let me tell you what Wells Fargo told to me. Wells Fargo, and I'm talking about a representative of Wells Fargo, said that if you just happen to have your man out there cutting grass, right, and he was cutting grass, and just next door happened to be a man that had two young daughters, and that man happened to have a background that as long as one of the daughters said that he looked at her strange or he said he was going to touch her, they would be embarrassed by that situation. Okay, so you want to go ahead and blame a guy out there just trying to make an honest living and not listen to his side of it. You just want to go ahead and say that implies guilt. How do you have an operations manager inside of a facility giving work orders that has a known felony background, and that's okay? There is no difference. If you're going to persecute one, you persecute both. If you're going to have a background check system, everybody has to be compliant. Everyone. It's not fair. It really is not fair. And that kind of crap right there makes me angry to be in the property preservation industry. It's like, you remember we had that Huffington Post interview years ago?
Yep. Hallman. Ben Hallman.
Ben Hallman. This is how long ago this has been. And some of the people that I have employed that may have been in 04 have been the most loyal and greatest contracting friends that I've ever met, and the ones that I trust the most with my people. I trust them around my family and everything else, but to some arrogant prick that's sitting there, with a suit and tie, that's the one that's a liability. Well, I think you need to worry about your own robo-signing problems and all the crap that your bank produces instead of worrying about what the contractor's doing. Isn't it funny? What about that 99 homes, right, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
You see that?
Hell, that was a hell of a movie there. And accurate,
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I don't mean to hijack your podcast to get angry, but it's enough's enough, man. We're decent, hardworking people. I'm proud that I'm a redneck. I'm proud that I'm blue collar. I'm proud that I'm a combat veteran, that I'm a decent person, that I employ people, that I go out every single day and I try to better the lives of the people around me, and I try to better my family, and every single day I try to bring honor to this industry, and I try to better the community that I serve. I'm not out trying to rape, rob, and pillage and modern-day Robin Hood out there doing, pirate crap. I'm trying to increase the communities and try to just beat the blight that's out there every day, but yet we're the criminals, right?
Oh, absolutely. But that's a war for another day, and it is what it is.
It is, brother. You're absolutely correct. But hey, FAST is going to be a great thing. Certainly would love for people to come, and I use your star power to get the labor in there, and we definitely want to see that the message is that management will be here, and we certainly hope labor can come down.
Yeah, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking today with Brett Douglas. He's the owner and founder of Team Ironclad. You can always go down there, 342 West Michigan Avenue, DeLand, Florida. You can reach him at 386-774-0800, 386-774-0200, 855-TEAM-IRON. Always on the web, teamironclad.com. And, excuse me, so with respect to Florida Fast 2016, I understand. So the night before the conference, you're going to have, just like a little get-together, breaking bread, huh?
Yes, sir. We have what we commonly call the meet and greet. That's where probably some of the best networking capability. I think sometimes we've been beat up about that. It's just a great big networking event. Well, you're correct. On the meet and greet, that's what it's for. From 6 to 10, we'll have catered food here. We have this one thing I wanted to mention to you, Paul, is that we've actually built our own commercial bar that can sit 10 people. We have full service back there. We have some people that are going to be graciously bartending. We have our own kegerator system now. We have draft beer on kegs. We have, the refrigerators back there, the full liquor, the wine. We're actually, very proud of that. We're going to have some catered food in here. And it's a great time to walk around. There'll be videos playing in different rooms, and people can see our facility and kind of get a feel for what's going to happen the next day, the Power Summit on Friday.
Holy cow. This thing's shaping up. What are we? We're 3 years into it. Every year, bigger.
Yes, sir.
Better.
Yep. I mentioned something to offline. I mentioned something to Eric Miller today, and I sent him a picture of one of the things that we're building, and I said, I just didn't want to embarrass you, and he goes, the funny thing is not to talk behind his back, but he mentioned, how would I be embarrassed when for 3 years you guys have put on an event that not many people in this industry have even tried to do, and this is your third year doing it. So, something you and I dreamed about, Paul, a long time ago, man, and one day it's going to come to fruition. We're going to be that recognized association.
Yeah, and hopefully sooner than later. And the beauty of it is, so we're not talking about a polarized, situation here. We're talking about bipartisan support between labor and management, and that's the only successful solution,
Well, and I got to tell you, you've been here, Paul. Everybody thought, I don't want to speak out of turn, but, everybody thought there was going to sparks fly between you and Eric Miller, and it was going to be this and that, but everybody handled themselves professionally because we all have a part to play. We all have to beat the proverbial drum, but when we get together, all that nonsense stops and we realize we have a common goal, a common interest. This is our industry. We choose to be property preservationists. I don't choose to do anything other in my life but to serve the mortgage field service industry. And this, Florida Fast, is the event that occurs. You come down here, forget all that high fancy stuff where you got 2 drink tickets, you buy a cup of coffee. We buy everything. It's all for you. Come down here, get a free T-shirt, have a great time, learn about our industry. It's right here. All you have to do is seize the moment. Carpe diem, right, buddy?
Amen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get with Brett again midweek, and then towards the end of the week. And I'm excited. I think this year really is where the rubber hits the road. There's just no other way to describe it, and especially vis-a-vis the environmental conditions in the industry today. But Brett, As always, I always appreciate you coming on the Foreclosurepedia podcast, speaking with the nation about it. And, we're going to keep you in the loop. And incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, we're going to ensure that those photos on the rehab, they're up this evening and into an article tomorrow. And we're going to keep Douglas and the Foreclosurepedia Nation in the loop. Brett, you have a great one.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much, Paul Williams. We'll catch you in the middle of the week.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, you may reach me on Google Plus at D. Paul Williams, LinkedIn, Paul Williams, and the LinkedIn group Property Preservation Consortium, Twitter, Foreclosurepedia. We stream all our podcasts on iTunes, Foreclosurepedia. We have our screencasts over on YouTube, the Foreclosurepedia channel, and always at foreclosurepedia.org. We'd like to give a special shout out to Amazon.com, whom provides our S3 podcast and video storage, and Cloudflare for hosting Foreclosurepedia in 24 different geo-positioned servers, pro bono as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to give me a shout out, COO at foreclosurepedia.org.